My name's Mary White, and I've been a patient at the Medical Healing Center since June of 2016, and been battling Lyme disease for almost 2 years now. I was living up in Virginia at the time when I got bit in April of 2015, and the tick was on my head for 2 days. Had no clue it was there, and really didn't even know what Lyme disease was, so didn't think anything of it. Went through the summer and the fall, and things just started physically and mentally not feeling right. And my friends and family just started noticing that something was off, but I couldn't really, put my finger on what exactly it was. So I kind of just brushed it aside. And late in the fall, I think it was in like November of that year, it just really hit me like a ton of bricks. I got like the worst flu-like symptoms of my life, and just really weird neurological stuff that I couldn't really explain. And people that have had Lyme disease really, they understand the brain fog, the neurological issues that when you try to explain it, it seems impossible because it's just so unique. And so I started experiencing all those things, and for about 2 weeks on and off the flu-like stuff went, and then kind of went away and transitioned to this like steady, just really horrible headache. And along with that came a barrage of psychological stuff. Like I was starting to have panic attacks and just really crippling anxiety to where I couldn't go to work, you didn't want to leave the house, didn't want to be around anybody, and that's kind of when I told my sister, I was like, I need to go see a doctor, something's not right. And so I went and saw my family provider, and she tried to explain the weird symptoms that I've been having, and she decided to test my thyroid. And so thinking that that might be an issue, and so turns out that I had Hashimoto's, which is the antibody that attacks your thyroid. So she put me on a really high dose of Synthroid, and I just started getting worse and worse. Nothing was working, and so she tried a couple different doses, and I was just getting worse. My hair started falling out, and the psychological symptoms were just getting so intense. And at that point, she decided that I needed to go get an MRI because the headaches had just gotten so intense. So I went in and got the MRI done, and they found that I had a pretty sizable subarachnoid cyst in the back of my head. And my doctor, before seeing the neurosurgeon, she was like, I think this is probably what's causing the symptoms, and I'm not knowing anything about anything medical. I just went along with what she said, and I was kind of relieved at the thought of getting brain surgery, but even just, just to get some relief, I was that desperate. And so I waited for 2 weeks and went and saw the neurosurgeon, and he looked at it and he said, this is benign, it's been there your whole life, it's not causing any issues. And so I was kind of back to square one, and I started just getting more and more weird symptoms. Like I would get just full body tremors, spasms, and just everything started spiraling worse downhill. And at that point she referred me I went and saw 6 or 7 different specialists, neurologists, saying the symptoms really mimic ALS and MS, and a lot of scary words were thrown out. But I would do all these tests, and they couldn't really pinpoint, what it was. And so for months that whole cycle went on. I went and saw a rheumatologist who, was looking for lupus and things like that, and nothing came back definitive. So I was just kind of at my wit's end at this point, and one night my best friend, who was in PA school at the time, she gave me a call late that night, and she had kind of been racking her brain about, what was going on with me, and so she was like, what, I think you need to look into Lyme disease, because I had mentioned getting bit by the tick, and I started looking it up, and I just had this feeling that was what it was. And so I went and told my doctor the next day, and she did the standard blood test for it, and came back negative. And so, I'm thinking, that's it, that's not what it is, so we're back to square one. And so I ended up getting more testing for MS and things like that. And my friend, really started, giving me more information about the unreliability of the testing, and so I pushed to get seen by an infectious disease doctor, because I had gotten tested again, and 3 of the strains came back positive, but it didn't really meet the CDC requirement to get a positive test. So I went and saw him, and really was just blown away by how unfairly I was treated, because at that point I was, 4 or 5 months of, being strung out from doctor to doctor, and given no answers, and just feeling progressively worse. He made me feel like I was crazy, and it was all in my head, and basically told me that I was trying to trick him into diagnosing me with Lyme disease. And so at that point, you're made to feel like you're crazy. It's all in your head. You're making it up. And so I started to believe that. I'm like, what? Maybe it is me. Maybe I'm losing my mind. And so my sister and my family and friends, they supported me through it, and I ended up just getting online and looking up, things about Lyme disease, and talking to different people who had experienced it, and Lyme patients, especially those with chronic Lyme, really know that you have to be your own advocate to get better, and to even, get noticed and seek help. So I found a doctor up in DC, which was about 3 hours from me, and started seeing him. And he was what they call a Lyme literate doctor, and so he was supposedly an expert in the field. And so I went and saw him, and for 6 months I was just put on 3-4 antibiotics at a time, double dosage, and I felt like I was dying at times, because it was so intense, the Herxheimer reactions, and I wasn't doing anything to detox and supplement, my immune system, because I didn't know, I was just doing what he told me to do, and I was slowly feeling better, but it was just I was just stuck in a cycle of being sick from all the medicine I was on, and he couldn't really give me a definitive answer of, if I was ever going to get better, and when. And he had patients that he had antibiotics on for years and even decades, and so it was very discouraging getting into 5 or 6 months of that, and with no end in sight. So I got to the point where they had tested my liver function, and it was really bad from all the antibiotics I was on. So he decided to take me off of everything, and at that point I was kind of done. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go back to him. And at that same day, my brother reached out to me, who lives in Tallahassee, and his neighbor had come to the Medical Healing Center to be seen for Epstein-Barr virus, I think, and she just raved about it, and she was like, you need to get your sister down here to see Angela, who she had seen. And he called me up, and the next day I had a flight down here. I was that desperate, and so I came down, and met with Angela, I think that following week, and I mean, right away from meeting her, I knew in my heart that this is where I was supposed to be, and it was like breathing a breath of fresh air, having a doctor, you know, that just cares about you as a person, and not, you know, you're not just another patient. And I felt that connection with her, that she was going to get me where I needed to be. And you know, at first, a lot of the things that they did here with me were very foreign, you know, because I was not used to the holistic, integrative approach to medicine, and yeah, at first I was like, you know, I was a little skeptical, and it took me a while to get on board with it, but within, you know, a month of being seen here, I noticed more of a difference than I did in, you know, 3 or 4 months of seeing my other doctor, and I just loved the way that they approached it here. With, you know, there's just so many different tools that they use, especially with Lyme disease. You really have to try everything to see, because everyone's different, to see what works for you. And so, you know, I tried everything from all kinds of natural supplements to, you know, detoxing, oxygen therapy, on top of IV antibiotics. I was doing IV antibiotics for 4 or 5 months. And what I really liked about her approach is that, you know, she didn't want me to be on antibiotics long term, because, you know, that it just destroys your immune system. And I mean, it does its purpose, but it also breaks your body down too. And, you know, her idea was to, you know, let your body do the fighting as well. And so I really was hopeful the first month or 2 I was here, and even though it sucked at times, and, you know, I still felt really sick and was still not myself, I had hope for the first time in a long time, and it really did save my life. I firmly believe that. And so here I am in, let's see, 9 months later almost, and I would say I'm about, not quite 100% yet, but I'm probably about 85–90% back to my old self. And I never thought it would be this long of a process when I started getting treatment for Lyme disease, but when I look at the other patients who I've met here who have been dealing with it for decades, and it really does break my heart to see, you know, that how they hear their stories and know that they have been where I've been, except far worse. And it makes me very appreciative to have found this place when I found it, because, you know, had I listened to my doctors in conventional medicine, you know, I don't know if I'd be here. And I'm just so very thankful for just not only outside of the treatment, just the respect and love that I've found at this place. And I've met some of the other patients here that, you know, that have been struggling with the same thing I have, except, you know, far worse. It really has made the journey worth it, and it really puts it in perspective. So I can't say enough about the Medical Healing Center and Angela and Susan and the whole staff about what they do here and what they represent.
Thank you.